Bruce Lee. The name alone conjures images of lightning-fast strikes, intense discipline, and a legacy that reshaped martial arts forever. He wasn't just a movie star, he was a philosopher, an innovator, and a fighter whose techniques pushed beyond tradition. But what if his impact went further than Hollywood? What if, behind closed doors, he was teaching his revolutionary combat system to those whose lives depended on it? For years, whispers have suggested that Bruce Lee privately trained members of the US military, FBI, and even special forces. But was this legend based on fact, or is it just another myth surrounding his extraordinary life? By the end of this video, we'll answer that question, uncovering the truth behind Bruce Lee's secret role in combat training and how his teachings may have shaped military hand-to-hand combat forever. By the late 1960s, the US military was facing a harsh reality. Traditional hand-to-hand combat techniques weren't cutting it. While martial arts had long been admired for their discipline and structure, real combat demanded something different. Soldiers needed techniques that worked in the chaos of battle. Methods that were quick, efficient, and designed to neutralize threats in seconds. Many traditional martial arts relied on ceremonial movements and rigid forms, but in a real fight, there was no time for wasted motion. It was during this search for a better approach that Bruce Lee's revolutionary martial art, Jeet Kune Do, began to catch attention. Unlike other styles, Jeet Kune Do wasn't about memorizing forms or following strict patterns. It was about adaptability, speed, and effectiveness. Lee taught that the best technique was the one that worked in the moment, and that fighting should be fluid, not fixed. With military and law enforcement personnel looking for better ways to train, was it only a matter of time before they sought out the one man who had revolutionized martial arts? While Bruce Lee's rise to fame was captivating audiences worldwide, behind the scenes, his expertise was being sought by those in the highest levels of law enforcement and military training. Lee's reputation for efficiency and adaptability in combat had reached the ears of FBI agents, police officers, and even military personnel. Unlike traditional martial arts instructors, Lee didn't just teach theory. He focused on what worked in real fights. Confirmed reports show that Bruce Lee personally trained members of law enforcement, offering private lessons that stripped away flashy techniques in favor of practical combat. His students included notable figures such as LAPD officers, FBI agents, and even members of the US Marine Corps. Some of these trainees later spoke about the experience, recalling how Lee's speed, precision, and philosophy on combat changed the way they approached hand-to-hand engagements. For them, learning from Bruce Lee wasn't about tradition, it was about survival. But did his training go even further? Did his methods make their way into the most elite branches of the US military? Among the many theories about Bruce Lee's influence on modern combat, one of the most intriguing is his rumored connection to the US Navy SEALs. Some claim that Lee's revolutionary Jeet Kune Do techniques found their way into SEAL training, changing the way elite soldiers approached hand-to-hand combat. But how much truth is there to this claim? Official military records do not list Bruce Lee as an instructor, nor do they directly link Jeet Kune Do to Navy SEAL programs. However, what we do have are accounts from former Special Forces operatives who later trained in Jeet Kune Do and recognized its effectiveness. SEALs are trained for adaptability, speed, and efficiency, the very core of Bruce Lee's philosophy. Many Special Forces veterans have spoken about the similarities between their combat training and the principles of Jeet Kune Do. Some have even suggested that military hand-to-hand combat evolved in a way that echoes Lee's teachings, whether directly or indirectly. While we may never find an official document proving Lee trained Navy SEALs, the undeniable similarities between his philosophy and modern military combat raise an important question. Was his influence simply too great to ignore? If Bruce Lee did train members of the US military or law enforcement, why wasn't it publicized? Today, many martial arts experts openly work with military forces, teaching specialized combat techniques. But during Lee's time, this wasn't the case. There are several theories as to why Bruce Lee's involvement, if any, remains secret. One possibility is that Lee himself did not want to be associated with military violence. He often spoke of martial arts as a means of self-improvement and personal growth, rather than a tool for war. Aligning his name with military hand-to-hand combat training could have contradicted his philosophy. Another theory is that any potential work Lee did with the military may have been classified. Military training programs in the 1960s and 70s were not as openly discussed as they are today. If special forces or intelligence agencies had consulted Lee for his expertise, official records may never have been made public. Regardless of the reason, Bruce Lee's secrecy contrasts sharply with today's reality. Modern martial artists openly teach law enforcement and military units, their methods widely recognized. If Bruce Lee's teachings influenced military combat, it may have been a quiet revolution, one that changed the battlefield from the shadows. Even without official confirmation of Bruce Lee's direct involvement in military training, his influence on modern combat is undeniable. Jeet Kune Do, with its emphasis on adaptability, speed, and efficiency, mirrors many of the principles found in today's military and law enforcement hand-to-hand combat training. In the decades following Lee's rise to prominence, elite military forces began to shift away from rigid, traditional martial arts in favor of techniques focused on real-world application. Modern military close combat training now prioritizes economy of movement, direct striking, and rapid neutralization of threats, ideas that Bruce Lee pioneered long before they became standard practice. Even today, the core philosophy of Jeet Kune Do, using no way as way, having no limitation as limitation, is echoed in Special Forces combat training. Soldiers and law enforcement officers are taught to adapt in real time, responding to threats with fluid, instinctual movements rather than preset techniques. While Bruce Lee may not have worn a military uniform, his legacy in combat strategy extends far beyond the silver screen. Whether intentional or not, his revolutionary approach to fighting continues to shape the way warriors train for battle. So, was Bruce Lee officially hired to train the US military? The truth is, no official records confirm that Bruce Lee was ever directly employed by the US military as a combat instructor. There are no government documents, contracts, or official acknowledgments tying him to Navy SEALs or Special Forces programs. However, the evidence suggests that Bruce Lee's influence on military hand-to-hand combat was significant, even if it happened indirectly. We know that he privately trained members of law enforcement, the FBI, and the Marine Corps. We know that his revolutionary approach to fighting, one that emphasized speed, adaptability, and simplicity, mirrors many of the techniques used in modern military close combat training. Whether Bruce Lee officially trained elite soldiers or not, his impact is undeniable. His philosophy reshaped how people think about fighting, stripping away unnecessary movements and focusing on what truly works in a real fight. Even today, warriors train using principles that echo his teachings. Perhaps the better question isn't if Bruce Lee trained the military, but how much of his philosophy lives on in the way soldiers fight today. Now, we want to hear from you. What's your favorite Bruce Lee story? Had you heard this one before, or was it new to you? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into forgotten history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Forgotten History channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.